Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ, today I want to talk about the 7 divine laws that control your money. For too long, many of God's children have believed that lack is holy and poverty is pious. But I'm here to remind you that God is your supply. Divine substance is everywhere present, and when we align with the spiritual laws set forth by our Creator, abundance flows like a mighty river. The wallet in your pocket, the coins in your purse, the figures in your bank account. These are not your true source. God is the giver. God is the gift. God is the supply. And your money is governed not by the world's economy, but by divine economy. The Word says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." That is not a suggestion. It is a law, a truth, and a promise. Today I invite you to open your hearts, renew your minds, and learn how to activate the 7 divine laws that govern your financial world. Not by striving, but by speaking the word, holding the vision, and walking in faith. For when you cast the burden and speak your word, miracles happen. Money comes in expected and unexpected ways. Doors open, debts dissolve, and divine right action brings supply with no sorrow added. The law of divine supply is one of the most foundational spiritual principles that govern the flow of money, wealth, and abundance into your life. It is a law that transcends human effort and material struggle. It is rooted in the eternal truth that God is your unfailing, inexhaustible source. Everything you could ever need, be it money, opportunity, ideas, or support, is already provided for you through the divine. Your role is not to create this supply, but to align yourself with it, to recognize it, and to receive it by faith. We live in a world that constantly tells us to depend on jobs, investments, the economy, or other people for our financial well-being. But the truth is, these are merely channels, not sources. When one channel dries up, it does not mean your supply is gone. God's abundance is limitless and eternal, and it is not confined to one path or one method. The law of divine supply reminds you to stop worshiping the channels and start trusting the source. As Florence Scovel Shinn taught, faith is expectancy. You do not receive what you wish for, or even what you pray for. You receive what you expect. Many people live in fear when it comes to money. They fear losing it. They fear not having enough. They fear never being financially free. But fear is simply faith turned inside out. It is belief in lack instead of belief in abundance. And when you fear lack, you unconsciously cut yourself off from the very supply you seek. Under divine law, your supply is spiritual before it is material. It begins in the unseen. You must first hold the consciousness of abundance, knowing that your needs are already met, even before the physical manifestation appears. Jesus said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." The kingdom is not a place, it is a state of consciousness. When you shift your inner beliefs to match divine truth, you begin to live in harmony with the law. Money flows to you easily, effortlessly, and continually because you are no longer trying to pull it from the outside world. You are drawing it from the infinite reservoir within. Your inner state creates your outer reality. The law of divine supply does not operate based on toil, grind, or hustle. It operates through spiritual alignment. That means you must daily discipline your thoughts, your words, and your feelings. If your mind is full of fear, anxiety, and limitation, you are blocking the current of abundance. But when your thoughts are in tune with divine order, when you declare boldly that God is your source, and that divine substance is flowing into every area of your life, you open the gates to financial miracles. Florence Scovel Shinn often emphasized the power of the spoken word. Your word is your wand. When you say, "I am divinely provided for," you are not making a wish, you are activating a law. When you say, "Unexpected income flows to me now," you are not hoping, you are commanding. The divine law of supply responds to your belief and your vibration. The stronger your faith, the faster the manifestation. But it must be real faith, not a hope, not a wish, not a maybe, but an unshakable knowing that God's riches are already yours. We must also remember that divine supply is not about hoarding or greed. It's not about trying to get more money just for the sake of having it. True abundance means having what you need, when you need it, and being a channel for good to flow through you to others. You are not just a receiver. You are a distributor. Money comes to you easily when you understand that you are not the owner, but the steward of divine substance. You are a vessel through which God expresses generosity, provision, and prosperity. Scarcity is not from God. It is a mental condition, not a spiritual reality. God's will for you is abundance in every area of your life, including finances. But you must choose to believe it. You must reject the lies of the world that say you are limited, unworthy, or stuck. You must reprogram your consciousness with spiritual truth. I live in a rich, friendly universe. I am one with the infinite supply. My good now flows to me in avalanches of abundance, under grace and in perfect ways. There are people who seem to work tirelessly and never prosper, while others do less and yet live in overflow. What's the difference? It's alignment. It's the understanding that your supply is not tied to your labor, but to your consciousness. The law of divine supply says that when you get your thoughts right, your world gets right. It's not magic, it's law. Divine law is precise, predictable, and unchanging. When you obey it, it must respond. When you live as though God is your source, the whole universe moves to support you. It is crucial to stop speaking words of lack, to stop claiming poverty, and to stop agreeing with limitation. Every time you say, "I can't afford it," you reinforce a lie. Every time you say, "Money doesn't grow on trees," you're choosing the world's logic over divine wisdom. Instead, speak what you want to see. Money comes to me easily and frequently. I am a magnet for divine supply. God is my instant, constant, and lavish provider. You don't need to figure out how your supply will come. That's not your job. Your job is to know it, declare it, expect it, and receive it. The moment you let go of the how and surrender to divine timing and divine methods, you free yourself from struggle. You release the anxiety that blocks your blessings. The law begins to work the moment you align your thoughts and emotions with spiritual truth. You must train your mind to look away from appearances and hold fast to the invisible supply that is always ready to manifest through divine right channels. The law of tithing and circulation is a spiritual principle that governs the flow of money in your life. It operates under the truth that giving and receiving are two sides of the same divine coin. You cannot receive what you are unwilling to give. When you give freely, joyfully, and without fear, you activate the divine circulation of abundance. Like the blood in your body, money must circulate to bring life. Stagnation creates lack. Circulation creates increase. Tithing in its purest form is not a church rule. It is a law of prosperity. It is the conscious act of returning a portion of your financial blessings to God's work, to spiritual truth, to where you are spiritually fed. And when done in faith, tithing opens the gates of divine multiplication. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the game of life is a game of boomerangs. What you send out returns to you multiplied. When you give, you are not losing, you are sowing. And the word is clear: give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Tithing is not about obligation. It is not about fear or guilt. It is about trust. It is a declaration that God is your source, not your paycheck, not your client, not your employer. When you tithe, you are placing your faith in divine supply, not in worldly conditions. You are saying, "God, I trust you with my money, and I believe you will multiply what remains." Many people hold tightly to their money, believing that if they give, they will have less. But this is the thinking of lack. It is rooted in the false belief that there is not enough to go around. Spiritual law says the opposite. When you give freely and joyfully, you expand your consciousness of abundance, and you make room for more. Just as you must inhale and exhale to live, so must your money flow out and return. If you only take in and never release, you block the cycle. Money, like energy, must move. And when it moves through you with faith and gratitude, it always returns increased. Tithing is often misunderstood because it appears irrational to the logical mind. How can giving away 10% of your income make you richer? But divine law is not governed by logic, it is governed by faith. Faith is the activating force behind the law. When you tithe out of fear, you reap fear. When you tithe out of love and confidence in God, you reap abundance. The spiritual act of giving releases a powerful vibration of trust, joy, and expansion into the universe, and the universe always echoes back what you give out. It's also important to recognize that tithing is not limited to money. You can tithe your time, your gifts, your service. You can give encouragement, love, support, and wisdom. Whatever you give from the heart carries spiritual value. But when it comes to money, the tithe has a special function. Money represents your faith, your work, your energy. When you give it consciously to a place that uplifts your soul or teaches you spiritual truth, you are saying, I am in covenant with abundance. That agreement activates the law of circulation, and God begins to return to you what you gave, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Another aspect of this law is that you must give without attachment. If you give in order to manipulate or to receive something back quickly, you are not truly giving, you are bartering. True tithing expects a return because it trusts divine law, but it does not demand a return out of desperation. There is a spiritual detachment in divine giving. You give because it is right, because it is joyful, because it is an expression of your faith. And in that surrender, the miracle begins. You may be tempted to say, I'll start giving when I have more. But the law doesn't wait until you feel ready. It activates the moment you act in faith. If you can't give from the little you have now, you won't give when you have more. The consciousness of lack will still dominate. Start where you are, give what you can, do it joyfully, and watch how life responds. There is never a wrong time to circulate good. In fact, giving in a moment of need sends a powerful message to the universe. I am not afraid. I know who my source is. One of the greatest secrets of prosperity is that money is not a thing. It is a flow, and you must become a channel through which it flows freely. The law of circulation means that you are never meant to hold and hoard. You are meant to give and receive, to bless and be blessed, to share and be shared with. The moment you begin to circulate money with a grateful and generous heart, the universe takes notice. New opportunities appear. Unexpected income arrives. Debts dissolve. Favor finds you. Divine supply is set in motion, and it begins to pour back into your life from multiple directions. You do not need to understand the mechanics of how this works. Just like planting a seed in the ground, you don't have to know how the roots grow. You just need to trust the process. Your tithe is a seed. Your gift is a spiritual investment, and God is the multiplier. As you give, you grow. As you release, you receive. As you circulate money in faith, you tap into a higher economy. One that is not bound by inflation, recession, or fear. It is the divine economy, and it is always in surplus. The law of mental equivalence teaches that your outer world is always a reflection of your inner world. It is a spiritual truth that what you hold in mind, what you truly believe and accept as real, manifests in your life. This law operates with absolute precision, whether you are aware of it or not. The state of your finances, your relationships, your health, and your opportunities all mirror the dominant images and expectations you carry in your consciousness. You do not attract what you merely want, you attract what you are in mental alignment with. Your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and mental pictures form a mold, and the universe faithfully fills that mold with substance. Florence Scovel Shinn often said, "The game of life is a game of solitaire. You play against yourself. That means you are not in competition with the world. You are working with the contents of your own mind. If you are experiencing lack or limitation in any form, it is because somewhere in your consciousness, you have accepted lack as your truth. You may not have done so deliberately, but mental equivalence is not concerned with whether your beliefs are conscious or unconscious. It simply responds to what is there. If your inner world is filled with images of not enough, fear, unworthiness, or struggle, those conditions will be stamped out into the physical world like a blueprint made manifest. To apply the law of mental equivalence effectively, you must begin by examining what you truly believe about money and wealth. Ask yourself, what do I expect financially? What do I believe I deserve? What images come to mind when I think about my financial future? If those images are filled with anxiety, confusion, or scarcity, then your results will reflect that inner state. You cannot rise above the level of your beliefs. Your outer wealth will never exceed your inner image of what is possible. Therefore, the work is not first in the bank account. It is in the mind. Mental equivalence works in pictures. The subconscious mind responds to images and feelings more powerfully than to words alone. You must begin to deliberately cultivate mental pictures of success, prosperity, and ease. Visualize yourself living in financial freedom. Picture yourself writing checks with joy and confidence. Imagine money flowing into your life from multiple sources. See yourself as calm, supported, and abundant. The more vividly and consistently you hold these pictures, the more deeply they imprint themselves on your subconscious, and the more powerfully the law begins to work. But visualization alone is not enough. You must also believe. You must accept those mental pictures as not only possible but inevitable. You must remove the doubt that says, "It's too good to be true," or "This works for others, but not for me." Doubt disrupts the mold. It creates conflicting energies that cancel your demonstration. To activate the law, your mental images must be supported by faith, conviction, and emotional alignment. The universe always responds to the clearest and most consistent vibration you hold. It's also important to recognize that negative mental equivalence works just as powerfully as positive. If you constantly dwell on bills, debt, and financial fear, you are building a mold for more of the same. Worry is a form of negative visualization. It creates strong images and feelings, and the law does not discriminate. It simply delivers what matches your dominant pattern. This is why Jesus said, "When ye pray, believe that ye receive, and ye shall have." Believing that you already have it is what activates the law. You must become the person who has what you desire, not in some distant future, but now, in consciousness. Affirmations are a powerful tool for shifting mental equivalence. When you speak prosperity truths consistently, such as, "I am rich in divine ideas," or "Money flows to me easily and frequently," you are reprogramming your subconscious. But affirmations must be felt, not just recited. The feeling behind the words gives them life. As Florence Scovel Shinn said, "You must act as if you have already received." That means you carry yourself, speak, think, and live as if your abundance is already here. This is not pretending. It is aligning. When your inner state matches the desired outcome, the outer world must conform. Your environment also reflects your mental equivalence. If your surroundings are cluttered, disorganized, or neglected, they may be mirroring an internal sense of confusion or lack. Clean up your space. Make room for new good. Prosperity likes order. Begin to live as someone who is prosperous, not arrogantly, but intentionally. Use what you have with appreciation. Dress well. Speak with confidence. Treat yourself and others with the dignity of someone who knows they are spiritually wealthy. Mental equivalence is not about controlling every thought or forcing outcomes. It is about creating a dominant pattern of belief and expectation that aligns with divine truth. The more you immerse yourself in truth teachings, the more your subconscious mind absorbs a new pattern. And once a new pattern is established, manifestation becomes natural. You don't have to chase money. It begins to flow toward you because you have become a vibrational match for it. The law of mental equivalence makes no exceptions and plays no favorites. Whatever is impressed upon the subconscious mind with belief and feeling will express itself in form. The law of command and declaration is a divine principle that reveals the power of your spoken word. In spiritual truth, your word is not just sound. It is creative force. Every time you speak, you are sending out vibrations that shape the conditions of your life. What you declare with faith, conviction, and spiritual authority sets invisible forces into motion. The law of command means you are not a beggar pleading for blessings. You are a child of God, created in the image of the Creator, and you have the right and responsibility to speak your world into existence. Florence Scovel Shinn taught, "Your word is your wand." That is not poetic metaphor, it is spiritual law. Words are not empty phrases, they are seeds. When you speak something with belief, you plant it in the fertile soil of the subconscious. And just as surely as a planted seed grows into a tree, your words grow into experiences. If your words are filled with fear, doubt, or limitation, your life will reflect those conditions. But when your words are filled with faith, truth, and expectancy, your world begins to mirror that higher vibration. Too often, people speak carelessly about their money. They say things like, "I'm always broke. I can't afford that." Or, "Money doesn't come easy." These words, repeated daily and laced with emotion, become declarations, commands issued to the subconscious mind, which then executes them with precision. The law of command doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you fear. It responds to your dominant word. If you constantly speak of lack, you are commanding lack. If you constantly affirm poverty, you are creating poverty. The universe is obedient. It delivers what you declare. To work with this law, you must become conscious of your language. Start to observe what you say about your finances. Are your words rooted in faith or fear? Do you speak increase or decrease? Do you affirm possibility or limitation? Speak only what you desire to see. Speak the end result, not the current condition. Even if your bank account is empty, declare, "God is my immediate supply. Abundance is flowing to me now. I am prosperous in every way." These are not empty affirmations, they are spiritual decrees that realign your energy and invite divine action. When Jesus spoke to the storm and said, "Peace, be still," he wasn't negotiating, he was commanding, and the elements obeyed. That same authority lives in you. You were given dominion, not because of your ego, but because of your spiritual inheritance. When you declare, you are not asking life to be kind to you. You are announcing what already belongs to you by divine right. You are calling it forth from the invisible into the visible. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. The law of command works only when you speak from a place of knowing, not from a place of hoping. Your declarations must be consistent. You cannot say, "I'm rich," in the morning and then complain about bills in the evening. Mixed messages create mixed results. Speak with clarity, speak with intention. Speak as if the thing you desire is already here. Declare often, "Divine substance is pouring into my life now. Money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways. I am a magnet for divine prosperity." The more you repeat these truths, the more your subconscious begins to accept them as reality, and your external conditions begin to shift. It's also important to speak with emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. It gives power to your words. Say your declarations with feeling. Let them rise up from the depth of your being. When your words are infused with passion and belief, they carry a magnetic charge that draws the corresponding experience into your life. This is why silent affirmations are often less effective. The spoken word, charged with emotion, carries authority. Speak your words aloud, daily, as if you are giving a divine command, because you are. Declarations are not magic spells. They are tools of conscious creation. They do not override spiritual law. They operate within it. You must speak the word, but you must also believe the word. You must align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the truth you are declaring. If you say, "I am wealthy," but feel unworthy or act out of fear, your results will reflect the contradiction. Speak, believe, and live your word. The universe always responds to coherence. The law of command is also activated through gratitude. When you declare gratitude in advance, you are demonstrating trust in the unseen. Say, "Thank you, God, that my needs are met. Thank you that abundance is flowing. Thank you for financial miracles now unfolding." Gratitude is a powerful declaration because it assumes the outcome is already complete. It aligns you with the frequency of receiving. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's arriving. You must also speak to the obstacles. If fear shows up, speak directly to it. I cast you out in the name of divine truth. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. If doubt creeps in, declare, I trust in divine timing. What is mine by divine right is already on its way. The spoken word dismantles the lies of limitation and reinforces the truth of abundance. Every time you speak the word with faith, you are rewriting your spiritual blueprint and calling forth a higher reality. The law of non-resistance is a divine principle that teaches you to stop fighting against appearances, people, conditions, or circumstances. In the spiritual realm, what you resist, you give energy to. What you push against becomes stronger. Resistance binds you to the very thing you want to eliminate. When you struggle with lack, complain about debt, or get angry over money problems, you are focusing on and energizing the condition you don't want. The law of non-resistance invites you to rise above appearances and move into a place of spiritual calm, faith, and surrender, knowing that divine order is always at work behind the scenes. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Resist not evil. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." This is not a call to be passive. It is a call to shift your attention from the problem to the spiritual solution. The universe responds not to panic, but to peace. Not to force, but to faith. Resistance blocks the flow of divine energy. When you resist, you close your heart and contract your vibration. But when you release resistance, you make space for miracles, for guidance, for unexpected breakthroughs. You allow divine intelligence to do the work in ways far greater than your limited understanding could imagine. Money, like all spiritual substance, flows through ease, not tension. When you worry about money, you are resisting. When you fear not having enough, you are resisting. When you speak words of frustration, such as, I can't pay this bill, or, why is it always so hard? You are resisting divine flow. Resistance is like building a dam in a river. You stop the current. The law of non-resistance asks you to remove the dam by releasing fear, letting go of the need to control, and trusting that the flow is always moving, if you allow it. Non-resistance doesn't mean you ignore your problems or pretend they don't exist. It means you approach them with a higher consciousness. You acknowledge the issue, but you don't fight it, you transcend it. You affirm that behind every problem is a divine solution. Behind every appearance of lack is the truth of abundance. You shift your focus from struggle to spiritual truth, from worry to wisdom. When you do this, conditions begin to soften. What seemed stuck begins to move. What seemed impossible begins to unfold with ease. Non-resistance is also about releasing judgment. About money, about people, about yourself. If you are angry at someone who owes you money, you are resisting. If you are bitter about financial loss, you are resisting. If you are ashamed of past mistakes, you are resisting. And that resistance keeps you bound to the old story. Release the judgment. Bless the person. Bless the situation. Forgive yourself. Say aloud, I release this with love. I place it in divine hands. I now allow the highest outcome to unfold. That is the power of non-resistance. It disarms the ego and invites grace to enter. Another expression of resistance is trying to force outcomes. When you insist that your money must come from one source, or in a specific way, or on your exact timeline, you are resisting the infinite creativity of the universe. The supply may be trying to reach you through another channel, but your resistance blocks it. The law of non-resistance invites you to stay open, detach from the how and when, trust the process. Say, this or something better, by divine right, now manifests for me. That statement opens doors. It tells the universe you are willing to receive without limitation. Non-resistance also applies to your internal dialogue. If you resist your feelings, anger, fear, frustration, they grow stronger. But when you acknowledge them with compassion and let them pass through, they lose their grip. Say, I see this fear, but I do not feed it. I feel this doubt, but I do not believe it. In doing so, you reclaim your power. You are no longer at war within yourself. You become a clear, open channel for divine flow. Money flows more easily to a peaceful mind than to a mind in conflict. In the context of money, non-resistance might mean blessing your bills instead of dreading them. It might mean paying what you can with gratitude instead of complaining about what you can't. It might mean accepting where you are financially without shame, while holding a vision for greater good. Acceptance does not mean settling, it means aligning. It means saying, "This is where I am, and I trust that better is on the way." That shift in energy is often all that's needed to begin the turnaround. Non-resistance is not weakness, it is spiritual strength. It takes great courage to stop fighting and start trusting, to stop struggling and start surrendering. But that surrender is not defeat, it is alignment with divine law. When you release resistance, you rise into a higher vibration, and in that higher state, the very things you once chased begin to chase you. Money flows, ideas come, help appears, doors open, the path clears. You don't make it happen, you allow it to happen. Florence Scovel Shinn often reminded us that conditions do not change by force, but by truth. When you stop resisting what is, and start affirming what can be, you open the gates to divine supply. You no longer fight the tide, you ride it. You no longer fear the future, you bless it. The law of non-resistance teaches you to trust that every circumstance, no matter how challenging, contains the seed of increase. When you let go, you let God. And when you let God, everything changes. The law of forgiveness and release is one of the most powerful spiritual laws when it comes to unlocking abundance and restoring divine flow in your financial life. It is often overlooked in teachings about money, but in truth, it holds the key to clearing the mental and emotional blocks that silently repel prosperity. Forgiveness is not simply about letting others off the hook, it is about setting yourself free. When you hold resentment, guilt, anger, or regret, you are holding on to low vibrations that disrupt your connection to divine supply. These emotional weights act like invisible chains, keeping you tethered to lack, struggle, and stagnation. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that resentment and unforgiveness are among the greatest obstacles to financial prosperity. When you harbor unforgiveness toward another person, you are energetically tied to them in a negative way. That tie becomes a leak in your spiritual energy system, draining your creative power, your focus, and your capacity to receive. Whether the offense seems large or small, whether it happened years ago or just yesterday, the energy of unforgiveness clogs the pipeline through which divine substance would otherwise flow. Forgiveness clears that pipeline. It opens the way. It unblocks the good that is already trying to reach you. This law also applies to forgiving yourself. Many people carry guilt and shame over past financial mistakes, bad investments, poor decisions, lost opportunities, or debts. They punish themselves mentally and emotionally, saying, "I should have known better," or "I'll never recover from that." This self-condemnation is a form of inner resistance, and it stops abundance from flowing. You must forgive yourself fully and completely. Say aloud, "I release the past. I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. I now bless that experience and receive its wisdom. I move forward in grace, wealth, and peace." That statement is not just healing, it is activating. It aligns you with higher frequencies where prosperity can once again circulate freely. True forgiveness doesn't mean condoning wrong behavior. It means you choose to no longer carry the emotional poison. It means you no longer allow someone else's actions or your own missteps to control your vibration. Holding a grudge may feel justified, but it comes at a high cost. Your peace, your joy, and your flow of good. When you forgive, you are not saying the action was right. You are saying your freedom is more important than being right. That decision breaks the spiritual bond of resentment and liberates you into the flow of divine blessing. Releasing is also a vital part of this law. To release something is to let it go mentally and emotionally, to surrender it into the hands of divine order. You may need to release an old belief about money, such as, "Rich people are greedy," or "I'll always have to work hard to survive." You may need to release a fear, such as, "What if I lose it all again?" Or, "What if I'm not good enough?" You may need to release a dependency on a certain person or outcome, trusting that God is your true source. Whatever it is, releasing it is not a loss, it is a spiritual detox. When you release the old, you make room for the new. Affirmations are powerful tools to work with this law. Say, "I now fully and freely forgive everyone who has ever wronged me, consciously or unconsciously. I bless them and release them to their highest good." Or say, "I forgive myself for every financial mistake. I am a new creature in Christ. I now walk in wisdom, favor, and increase." These affirmations are not mere words, they are spiritual commands. When spoken with sincerity, they shift the inner atmosphere of your soul. They change your frequency. And when your frequency changes, your conditions must follow. Another important aspect of the law of forgiveness and release is emotional neutrality. When you have truly forgiven, you no longer feel a charge around the memory. You no longer replay the offense or carry the weight of what happened. You are free, not because circumstances changed, but because you changed. That emotional freedom is priceless. It creates a clear, open field in which blessings can take root and grow. Money, like all energy, flows best where there is peace, and forgiveness is the great restorer of peace. Sometimes, the need for forgiveness will rise up when you least expect it. A sudden memory, a lingering feeling, an old name popping into your mind. These are signs that something needs to be cleared. Don't suppress it. Face it with spiritual authority. Say, "I see you, I feel you, and I now release you in love." Then bless the person or situation, however difficult it may feel. The blessing is your bridge to freedom. The blessing breaks the pattern. What you bless cannot bind you. The law of forgiveness and release teaches that your wealth is not only a matter of mindset or action. It is a matter of heart. A heart heavy with bitterness cannot hold the lightness of abundance. But a heart cleansed by forgiveness becomes magnetic to good. It becomes a sanctuary where divine ideas, opportunities, and provision are welcomed in. You don't have to force this law to work. You simply have to be willing. Willing to forgive, willing to release, willing to rise. Even if the pain is deep, your willingness is the invitation the universe needs to begin the healing process.